Dr. Farrugia, thank you for taking time. I know how busy you are right now to educate us and tell us what's going on. It looks like a vaccine for broad use at least 12 to 18 months away. So given that, we need therapies, and Mayo has taken the lead on a national plasma test to determine whether this therapy can be used. Can you explain how this works? And I understand it's a different kind of test. You're going to get data in real time. Can you explain how many institutions are involved and how's it going to work, the therapy going to work, and what's your outlook for it?
Well, first of all, thank you for having me on the program. And Bill, thank you for continuing to emphasize really the need for authentic leadership during a pandemic. We are focused, as is every other healthcare organization, saving lives, developing new treatments, and making sure we emerge from this healthcare crisis more nimble, more patient-focused. And really, scientists and physicians around the world are racing to find new treatments for COVID-19. And the convalescent plasma initiative is one of these options. We're honored that we've been asked to be the lead for this national initiative with Dr. Michael Joyner as the principal investigator. What it is that when we are exposed to bacteria and to viruses, we mount a response. And that response are tiny proteins that are in our blood. They're called immunoglobulins or antibodies, and they help us fight the disease. So people who have recovered tend to have a lot of these immunoglobulins. So if you take blood from one of these people and then you extract from it all the cells, you're left with a yellowish liquid called plasma. Now, if it were to work, it would be very helpful for patients initially who are seriously ill. Then we could use it for patients who are moderately ill to prevent them from getting seriously ill. And then we can also use it to make sure that people are at most risk, for example, healthcare workers, can get it and then be immune from the virus for a few months. I said if it works because we still need to find out. This is not a new treatment. This has been available for probably just over 100 years, used first in 1918, and then used in other pandemics. Sometimes it works, and sometimes it doesn't. And when it works, it's because those little proteins, those antibodies, can neutralize the virus or cause an immune response. And so we will find out. But what has been amazing about this is the degree of collaboration that you mentioned. So Dr. Arturo Casadevall had this idea, Mayo Clinic, others got together, and very soon we now have a coalition of over 100 sites, including the Red Cross, including industry, that are focused on making this happen and being able to deliver this option to patients. The FDA has been remarkably supportive. We went from Mayo Clinic starting to put the protocol together to now, 18 days later, it's live, it's happening. There are over 100 sites involved. And that really speaks about the collaboration that is needed to fight a pandemic like COVID-19.
So thank you. Let me shift now to testing because we need test data. There's been a huge shortage of testing. They're starting to come online. Mayo released a test several weeks ago to do more of its internal testing. But yesterday, I believe, you released a serology test. What's the difference here, and how will that work, and how is it different than some of the other tests out there? And how do you see it being used?
Well, Bill, we need to answer a question that has been posed many, many times. How many people in this country have been exposed, infected with COVID-19? The serology test allows us to answer that question. I mentioned in my answer about convalescent plasma how there are these tiny proteins that are floating around in our blood. They're called immunoglobulins, and there's a particular type called an IgG. When you have an IgG antibody, what that means is that you've been exposed to the virus. So we have an ability, through the serology test, of being able to find out who was exposed to the virus. Now, initially, that would allow us to answer that question. If we do find that that exposure also gives you immunity, then we can also use it to determine who is now immune. And we can also use it to find out at a large scale what we can expect in the future because we get a better idea about how many people are immune within our society. But initially, the strength of the serology test is going to be finding out exposure. Now, it's important to point out it does not replace the other test, the molecular test. We've, like with others, have raced to have that test available. We got it on the market in 3 weeks. Now with the serum test, the serology test, we're able to answer more than one question. But if you have symptoms, the right test is the molecular test.
Dr. Farrugia, it's Sarah. Sorry for mispronouncing your name earlier. It seems to me that this serology test for antibodies is key to figuring out how we get back to work and how we get back to some semblance of a normal society. Where are these tests, and why aren't they being sort of released so that everybody in the U.S. can get them right now?
So first of all, thank you for asking that question, because that's a crucial question. Now, intrinsic in that question is the answer that we need to still get, which is having those antibodies, does it make you immune, and for how long? Because if it is, if we find out that that is indeed the case, then yes, you could start targeting populations that can go safely back to work. Now, Mayo Clinic launched the test yesterday, and we have to scale up. It is important to realize that there are many variations of the test, and each have their own sensitivity, how good it is at picking up the antibody, and specificity, how good is the answer. And you really want a test that gives you a very good answer. And we had spent quite a lot of time working out the details to make sure the test we are offering indeed fulfills those criteria. Once you do that, then you can scale. And we are in conversations with a variety of entities to see how rapidly we can scale, as well as other healthcare organizations that are doing the same.